Tech Transforms explores how technology is reshaping our world, particularly at the intersection of government, innovation, and human needs. In each episode, I talk with some of the most influential voices in technology, uncovering how they're leveraging innovation to solve complex challenges and improve the way we live. This episode is sponsored by OWL Cyber Defense, leaders in secure data transfer solutions for critical networks. Welcome to Tech Transforms. I'm your host, Carolyn Ford, and today I get to welcome Julie Laurin, a cyber threat intelligence consultant with the Mining and Metals ISAC, and a deeply curious observer of the digital-human intersection. Julie brings 2 decades of experience in software and an uncanny radar for the risks we overlook, not just in code or firewalls, but in people, perceptions, and even influence campaigns. She's helped organizations in defense, intelligence, and critical infrastructure better understand how threats evolve, not just from the outside, but from within. And when she's not dissecting cyber threats, she's building a homestead and living the unplugged dream. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I follow you on LinkedIn. That's how we connected, was on LinkedIn. And I love your posts because we go from, red teaming and all of this cyber technical specific stuff to look at these tomatoes I grew.
Yes, I have varied interests and I'm not afraid to show them.
I absolutely love it. So you clearly are fascinated with people and the why. And how does this curiosity shape your approach to cyber intelligence, cyber threat intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, it is so fascinating how people use it, not only use technology for themselves, right? I mean, it's how they use it to work together, how they use it to attack each other, how they use it to understand each other. And so for me, looking at how a human being interfaces with a mobile phone or a computer at work or computer at home allows me to understand what are these soft spots? What are the potential threats that we could face? How does a human behave with a computer when they're tired? How does a human behave with a computer when they're anxious? How do they behave when the computer doesn't work, when they get a blue screen of death, right? And so if you've ever experienced having someone throw a laptop across the room at work, you know that this is very, very interesting.
Have you seen that happen?
Yes. Yes, wow. I have.
I mean, I've wanted to. There have been, not often, but there have been times where I just now I'm revealing, screamed and pounded my keyboard.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so frustrated with the technology.
Yeah, it is very, very interesting. And so from a cyber threat perspective, it really helps to inform me okay, well, where are the soft points that people could take advantage of? And so to really kind of paint the whole picture and not just say, well, this user is stupid because they clicked on the link. Well, no, maybe this was crafted so expertly that anyone could have fallen victim to this particular threat. And so, yeah, it really, and also it gives us a perspective on how people program, how machines are secured, right? And so if you really cannot leave out the human element in all of it.
Can you give me an example, at work, how observing human behavior has helped you accomplish a task? Or I'm not asking it right, but
I can give you an example of a threat that I researched earlier this year that really revealed a lot about what the threat actors are going for, right? And it's one of my favorites just because it was one of my big first research projects, which is the Clickfix malware. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Which is it?
It's called Clickfix. And so there's been different variations since then. Threat researchers have done a lot of work in revealing potential other avenues that this social engineering attack could be used. But what's interesting is that this is an attack that starts either via email or an advertisement online that you click on, you don't know where that link goes. And it takes you to a browser window, and it pops up a little like help um, notification that tells you, oh, you need to do these 3 steps because your browser needs to get updated, or whatever. There's all kinds of ways that this could be crafted, but it basically follows the same principle, which is that A, users like to help themselves, and B, especially with anything help desk related, users hate calling their own help desk. So they're not going to. They're going to follow very simple instructions.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, like, I started my career in tech, first of all, as a computer technician, which I'm so glad I moved away from hardware to software, but then software testing. And one of the things you learn about web usability is that we've designed systems that reduce the amount of time that you have to think.
Mm-hmm.
So threat actors will take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so this is where Clickfix excels. It has 3 simple instructions. And then the 3rd instruction, you're done.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you just described made me think of when I go to open up an app and it says, oh, you need to update. Mm-hmm. Well, that is a learned behavior. Yes. I trust that message. It sounds like Clickfix leverages that learned behavior of users. Like it, yeah. I would think, oh, it's asking me to update my browser, and I would just do it.
Yes. Yeah,
because simple. Yeah, right. Yeah. Do you know what I was thinking the other day? I get so much junk mail, and I go between just blocking to thinking, oh, I should just go in and unsubscribe. And I think it was just yesterday, as I went to click on the unsubscribe link, I thought, if I were malicious, this is where I would bury some
absolutely
malicious code, is in this unsubscribe link.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I have thought of so many ways that we could attack people, right? Because that's kind of like there's so many avenues for attack. That's the thing that we don't realize. There's so many images, advertisements, links. People are overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, overwhelmed is the right term, and things are getting faster and faster. We're accelerating faster than we ever have. And I started my career in government cyber with the insider threat world, right? So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that social engineering is probably still right up there with the number one, like being more dangerous than malware.
It is the entry point for malware.
There we go.
That's the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So can you share a scenario, maybe from your work in critical infrastructure, where influence was the most powerful attack vector, or how they got in through the social engineering?
Well, so this is difficult, right? Because you have to think about, and this is where most of us who have worked in corporate, well, in your case, corporate America, in my case, corporate, actually, no, I spent half my career working for Americans. But we have such a disconnect between what it's really like in critical infrastructure, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing that we forget, or that people are not aware of, even other practitioners, is that a lot of organizations in critical infrastructure don't have dedicated security folks, right?
Right.
And so if they get hit,
well, they don't even have dedicated point who's in charge at this point, because we've got these old systems, these old SCADA systems. It's hardware. But then you start marrying cyber to it. So who owns it? The technician or the cyber person? Who's in charge?
And so that's a challenge already in critical infrastructure in general. How can we attribute, or how do we know for sure that, let's say, 25% of social engineering attacks came in through phishing emails and all that stuff? The other thing too is that because the ISAC looks at the global mining and minerals industry, you also have to consider that there are countries in this world where there are illegal mines, and there are gangsters mines, and there are all kinds of geopolitical threats as well, because as we know, critical minerals and metals are becoming a hot topic, right? I mean, we all want to move production to North America. So there's a lot of stuff going on that it's very difficult to know if something is coming in through an insider or through an email.
Right. You just said something that I want to pull on this thread a little bit, and I may be way off, but the critical infrastructure world usually is power, oil, gas, water. I'm missing nuclear, which is power. So those are that's critical infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
But what you just said about the minerals, I think it's quickly becoming maybe should be considered part of our critical infrastructure.
Absolutely. I was baffled when I learned that mining minerals were not technically part of critical infrastructure.
Right. When we talk about minerals, like I think about mining, I think about machines digging into the earth or the ocean or whatever. But you've got your technology that's managing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are there mandates and guidelines in place to secure that technology?
It's starting. I'm not really as familiar with the compliance side of mining as some of my colleagues, for example. But I definitely have seen ISO 2701, or at least vendors needing to be certified in order to get into certain mines, things like that. So that's the kind of stuff that I know about, but I can't really speak to the kind of global movement to secure mining. It's so like it's
right.
huge.
Right. So what kinds of influence-based threats are the industrial sectors facing today?
Well, I think it goes back to what we talked about, right? Which is that if you're just looking at political influence, for example, you're really looking then at the geopolitical stuff. So what is, Russia and China wanting to do, and what are their threat actors doing? And then are we looking at the North Korean worker situation, right? Which is across industries. So there isn't a specific influence threat targeting the mining sector, to be quite fair here.
Yeah, my mind, I haven't thought about this space, honestly. So my mind is really...
Most people haven't. It's not just you. Also, the media completely ignores it.
Yeah, but that moment where I'm like, this is really become part of our critical infrastructure. We need these critical minerals to power a lot of what we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you differentiate between traditional cyber threats and those designed to manipulate behavior or perception?
I don't personally.
Okay.
The reason why, I'll tell you why. It's because it's the same principle. Deceit, manipulation, influence, creating urgency, everything that we see coming in as a social engineering threat has been used for hundreds of years. And
right?
so thousands. Snake oil salesman is the same as a modern charlatan. So from a social engineering standpoint, I don't see them as any different. Now, I think the perception is what we need to change. So traditionally speaking, we saw things like script kiddies and hacking, like breaking into systems and stuff. All that has kind of changed in the sense that it's just easier now to access someone's network. It's just so much easier. And so I think the perceptions of what cybersecurity looks like is what needs to evolve.
What do you think it should evolve to?
I think that people, especially organizations, need to take the threats more seriously. I think that they're not necessarily convinced that cybersecurity needs to be more than just a compliance exercise, for example. I also think that the consumer is like, let's go back to the word overwhelmed. And so the perception needs to change on a consumer level. It needs to change also from developers. They need to stop treating users as stupid and start really building things like with security first.
I'm still seeing advertisements for, not advertisements, but messaging about, okay, the CISO is finally getting a seat at the table. And I'm like, what do you mean finally getting a seat at the table? How is the CISO not had like the number one seat at the table for a long time? But I think that is still, I'm surprised to hear that's still the case. Is that what you're finding? That the CISOs are still not, they don't have the influence. They don't have the seat at the table that they should have.
Yeah, I hear that a lot as well, especially because we're both on LinkedIn. We're both very active on it. Super connected with a whole bunch of CISOs. I think that is changing. I like to believe that it is, and that's what I'm hearing too. So that's good. That's a forward trajectory that I really like to see. I think that there are organizations that need, because when you think of a CISO, you're thinking about a big corporation. But I think that the medium enterprises and the smaller ones really need to start having those kinds of roles in place, period.
Right. And taking, like you just said, like taking it seriously.
Yes.
They may not be taking it as seriously as they should be. So let's talk about diodes for a second. I know that you've had a lot of experience in the past working with diodes. Do you still?
Yeah, I still do some contract work for Sperna Security. Yeah.
Okay. Does the mining industry use diodes to secure? Does the mining industry has OT, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Do they use diodes?
I mean, I'm sure that they do.
Okay.
I think, there are, I believe, there are a few case studies out there with the mining sector. So yeah, I mean, I think most industries, and it's hard, right? Because they're not technically critical infrastructure, but I'm going to lump them in. So I'm going to say most organizations in the CI sector use diodes, yes. Or many, let's say, not most.
Right. How are diodes evolving, or are they evolving to address not just data integrity, but human threats? Would they be used that way or no?
It's interesting because my experience with diodes is really the unidirectional gateways,
exactly.
Right? And so I would not want to see those evolve too much, because they do a really great job doing what they do, right? You can optimize them for speed. You can maybe optimize them and start adding some filtering or things like that. But you don't want to see the basic model change too much, because that is really like the line of defense for when the human threat comes in, or when humans are, unfortunately, and will always be breached. That's really a line of defense that you do not want to start putting, too much like AI or things that will allow humans to fail at managing the diode as well. And so, yeah, I like that it's kind of quote unquote dumb tech in a way, a very simple unidirectional one-way tunnel. Fantastic.
Right. And to use an overused term, like that's part of your layered defense. Yeah, and having that zero trust, there you go. And having that, I don't know how people are going to feel about this, but this dumb switch in place that really, to your point, that's the point. Yeah. Is you cannot manipulate it. It is a physical barrier. It is one way only. That is the point. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, so we're women in cybersecurity. I want to talk about that a little bit.
We can have a whole show about that, Carolyn.
We can, and I have had series about this. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about back in my day, in high school, we had shop class and we had home ec. And the boys went to shop class and the girls went to home ec. And there was really no cross-contamination. I think that has been the case in the cybersecurity and in the tech world in general. It's not anymore, but it's still heavy on the male side of the camp. So what's your experience been like navigating leadership in cybersecurity, and national security technology in general?
I have so much to say on this topic. I think the first thing, listen, I failed home ec in high school because I was always a tomboy.
You snuck into shop.
No, because I also wasn't interested in shop too much
Okay.
for the demise of my mechanic father. But no, I feel like, a lot of female guests will come on the show and they'll get asked that very same question and be like, but it's getting better. And I will say, no, it's not. I'm extremely, to a fault, pragmatic. And I will tell you that part of being a woman in leadership roles in tech in general, not just cybersecurity, is acceptance. It is accepting the fact that you will not be seen as an equal, period. It is accepting the fact that things are not getting better. How many female CTOs do you know? Because
and that's the thing, Julie.
One.
I think you're right. I think it's about the same now as it was when I started in tech. I've been in government tech for 15 plus years, but I started in tech, like early 2000s. And it hasn't changed that much. How many women are in the room? Female CTOs? I don't know any female CTOs.
Even female CISOs, right? How many do we know? I don't think I might, probably on LinkedIn through an acquaintance. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, like, first of all, we have to teach acceptance, not just for women to accept and then also find ways to deal with that and overcome it and fight like hell to get what they deserve, but also for the men to stop saying, oh, come on now, there's no problem. It doesn't exist. I don't believe in it. Everybody gets promoted based on merit. It has nothing to do with looks. It has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do with whatever. The denial that I hear from the men is a massive problem as well.
My first job, other than babysitting, was in a wood shop. So I was cutting on, band saws, mostly band saws, because I was good at the fine motor skill. But I was working on all the big machinery. And I remember I got the job because my uncle owned the shop. And we had a conversation early on. He told me how much I was going to make, which it was like, I'm not going to date myself this bad, but it was like $1.25 an hour. It was a little more than that, but it was like minimum wage, right? And he told me that John, who was doing the exact same job as me, was making twice that much, but that's because he was the breadwinner. He actually used those words with me, like wow. Didn't try to hide it, because this was back, before there could be any repercussions for saying something like that. And sometimes I wonder if it's still the same, people just don't say it out loud.
Yes, a million times. I was actually having a conversation about this with another woman in the industry. And that's exactly what I said to her. I said, it's even worse because back in the day, like you could see even like the sexual assaults happening in front of you at the workplace, the harassment, the everything. You could just see it. And you knew, oh, stay away from this guy. Mm-hmm. Now it's happening behind closed doors. It's happening so on the down low that you don't know anymore who's a threat. So there's that alone. We haven't even talked about the threat side, but really, promotions, everything and anything with regards to what men think is a merit system and what women know is a system that is completely unfair.
Interesting, because as we're getting into this, I usually not stay away from this. I've had a few episodes, like I said, women in technology. And I'm thinking back on those episodes, and even those episodes have been a little bit of denial. Like, it's getting better. Okay, not a little bit, a lot. Like, it's getting better. This doesn't really exist anymore like it used to. Um, ugh.
Well, because there's a culture of positivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And anything that is critical, and even presents examples as we have, is seen as negative. It's seen as you're almost seen as a threat for bringing up the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Why are you in tech?
Well, funny story. My first job was babysitting, and I didn't know I had ADD when I was a kid, and couldn't figure out what I wanted to major in. So I took up a job when I was like a teenager for a guy down the street who was a computer technician.
Mm-hmm.
And I would play his video game called Mean Streets, a detective game. And when he was away, and when he got home one night, he said, "Oh, you passed this level. How did you do that?" I was like, "I'll show you." And so he made a deal with me where he said, "Well, I'll tell you what, you tell me how to pass these levels, I'll teach you something new about computers." And that's the agreement that we had when I was growing up. And honestly, it was the only real career that I could do without a university degree, because I kept like not getting interested in schooling. And that's really how I ended up in tech. It was by accident. It was by curiosity. It was by just the sheer curiosity of it, like being a gamer and having a mentor in my life really made the difference.
I don't know the statistics on this, but I suspect that there is a high percentage of neurodiverse people in tech. And as you were talking about it, it made me wonder if the reason is, and now I need to go research this, but if the reason is because of the speed that things move. And so it keeps like them engaged, us engaged, neurodiverse people engaged. Like, it's exciting, and it really is always exciting. Like, we're moving so fast and it's just speeding up. But I mean, I don't know if that's true. This is the hypothesis. We're working it out on the show.
Well, there's a lot of discussion in forums, right, about like what jobs do you have and what flavor of neurodiversity do you have, right? Neurodivergence. And the main jobs that seem to really fit people with ADHD is like stuff like emergency medicine, paramedics, to a certain
Because it's
extent.
exciting.
It's exciting. It changes. We work really well under pressure. And so I'm the type of person, if I have an assignment, I will wait until the last possible minute.
Me too.
And the time that I spend, and I love that. I love that. And intelligence is great for that, because you're researching different threats every day. You're researching threat actors. You're doing analysis on a whole, like the big picture analysis. And so it really fits well with the brain. And one of the things that people misunderstand about that, they think we're procrastinators, but really we're working out in our brains the whole time before the deadline. How is this going to work? Or what about this? Or what about that? And so your final product is excellent because you spent like 7 days doing what looks like sitting around, but actually framing things in your mind and doing research on your phone or whatever. And then on the autism side, people who are really like data, really like to organize data, like to structure data. It feeds that beautiful superpower, right? And so there's really it's a very good field for people who are different.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to me. I mean, we're just human, right? We're just flavors of who we are. And what you were saying about it looks like we're just sitting around often. A lot of times when I get stuck and I've been trying to solve a problem for hours, days, I have to just literally disengage from my technology, and I will go for a 2-hour walk, or I will go even longer. And that's when everything like coalesces for me. And then I'm like, oh, I've got it. And I can move on. But I have to I have to disengage for that magic to happen. But it's after, like you said, I've been working this out in my brain, I've been researching it, and it's just like the pieces are just not fitting for me until I can step away from it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason there's a whole subreddit called Shower Thoughts, right? I think a lot of people can actually relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it accepted? Like, it's not a hidden thing to say, oh, I'm neurodivergent. Like, I have a lot of people that I work with that just openly say, like you said, I've got ADHD. Like, it's just like it's a superpower. I'm just telling you this to explain why if I'm talking to you, squirrel, that's why.
Yes.
um, how do you think organizations are dealing with it and accepting it if they are?
Poorly. I think a lot of the programs, that are engineered for inclusivity are not actually being done or implemented properly in the workplace. I think a lot of people, yes, we do have kind of I like to see some of the things that I can do as a superpower. But in the workplace, because I cannot understand implied meetings, or like when I'm in a corporate meeting and there's a lot of C-suite executives or whatever, and everybody's agreed on something, and I'm like, but what did you actually agree on? Because I don't understand. My brain doesn't work like that.
They're saying a lot of words without saying actually what it is they want. They talk so much and don't say anything.
You don't say, you're not actually saying anything. And then when you say the thing, it's rude.
And exactly, you're like, oh, that's so rude. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I just said what we've been talking about for hours.
Yeah.
But it's like this one sentence. So I struggle with that too. I think some people call it diplomacy, rather than just getting to the point and saying what it is you need, saying what it is that you think it should be. So I struggle with that.
And yet, what's interesting is that when you do end up in a room with other neurodivergents, you're so used to working in a typical environment that also can completely throw you off the rails, because now all of a sudden everybody's speaking directly and you're like, oh,
now you're like, wait, everybody's rude. Everybody's being rude.
So the workplace dynamics are, to me, as fascinating as how people use technology.
Yeah. I can't believe time is beating us already. So
oh, no.
I know. I glanced at the clock and like, how has the time slipped by so quickly? So let's see. What do you want to leave our audience with? We've covered a lot of ground.
Gosh. I think, I guess I'll talk about a little bit about LinkedIn real quickly here, which is that when you make a statement, even in life, I'm going to reel that back a little bit here, which is that on the LinkedIn post that I had made that I think prompted this whole interview was me criticizing social engineering training.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we have to, before we comment on people's posts, before we talk to other people, take a moment to consider human being. There's a human being on the other side of that keyboard. So do that with everything in life, because that's the thing that I think irks me the most, is that there is so much almost aggression at different opinions in our industry. And I would just like to encourage people to take a deep breath and to just talk to each other instead of going head to head, because that's one thing that I'm seeing in our industry, that, listen, the threat actors are happy to see that kind of behavior. And so maybe we should just work together more.
This digital age makes it a lot easier to disregard the human on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
When you're posting something, texting something, typing something, you miss the human. I mean, it's easier for us right now because at least we can see each other on the screen.
Yes.
But even better if we could be in the same room.
Yeah.
It's still not the same. It's good. It's still not the best. Right?
Yeah.
So I like that. All right, I want to get us to our tech talk question. So this is our fun rapid fire question.
Okay, cool.
And we're celebrating our 100th Tech Transforms episode. So I'm asking all my guests this question.
Okay.
What is the weirdest piece of tech you have ever encountered or heard of?
It's not the weirdest piece of tech, but I have a strange memory of being in Florida for the first time and seeing a man demonstrating a variety of tasers out in public. And I was like, that is technology. That is scary. I'm Canadian. I'm way too Canadian for this booth. But to me, this was like, oh, these are always, this is fantastic. Great. Yeah. So to me, that was just weird, a weird experience with technology.
Okay. Yeah. And then you go to where your brain likes to go, thinking about the human side of things. Just, you're like, what kind of world am I living in that this is normal?
I was young. I was like holding my mom's hand.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. If you could outsource one annoying daily task to AI while working on your homestead, what would it be?
Here's a quirky thing that I don't know that AI could fix, but if I had an AI robot, I don't like putting away the dishes.
I don't either. Or emptying the dishwasher. It's the worst.
I don't like dishwashers, so I refuse to use the dishwasher. But I will wash them by hand and I'll let them dry, but I hate putting them away.
So
if I could outsource that, give me an AI robot that knows exactly where they go and will put them away for me.
I think we're getting there. We're so close to the Jetsons. I think we're getting there. So your wish may come true soon. Okay, this is the last one.
Okay.
What would be harder to defend? A critical infrastructure system, or a gossip chain in a small town?
All right. I live in rural Prince Edward Island, Canada. Gossip in a small town is like a wildfire. So that would be definitely the hardest thing to defend against.
Yeah, I think so. I'm with you there. All right, Julie, thanks so much. Where can our listeners connect with you? We've talked about LinkedIn. I'll put your LinkedIn post there. Is that the best place for listeners to connect with you?
That's the best place. Yeah, definitely. Find me on LinkedIn and let's connect.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Please smash that like button and share this episode. Tech Transform is produced by Show and Tell. Until next time, stay curious and keep imagining the future. Step into the mission and take part of it home. Meet the author of Operation Skipjack at the Owl Evolution Summit, October 24th, 2025, and get your own signed copy. Reserve your spot now at owlcyberdefense.com/summit. Thanks for joining us on Tech Transforms. If you enjoyed this episode, please smash that like button and talk about it with a friend. I'm Carolyn Ford, and this is Tech Transforms.